return of Checkdown Charlie. Leader Fan Radio Network.
What the hell's going on out here?
And KFAN.com. 2 minutes and 19 seconds past the hour of 3 o'clock Central Daylight Time. We welcome you back on a relatively pleasant late July afternoon to the Fan Radio Network and the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. My name is Dan Barreiro, the host of the program. Guardsy produces the show. And we have a couple of new mottos that we're going to be exploring today that I was unaware of, including not just mottos. There is a new syndrome that has been identified.
Oh, no. Do we have it?
That we need to talk about. It's called FDS. You familiar with FDS?
I don't know.
You're going to find out about it today.
I'm very curious now.
I didn't know it existed. But I learned via the internet earlier today that it does, and it affects this very radio station. So FDS is on the hopper, or in the hopper, as we like to say in the business. Kessler is scheduled in studio at 5:30 today. Does Kessler have, I meant to text him this, or you, do either one of you have a working subscription to CNN.com? As in, apparently, their investigative pieces, they now have a gate up where if you go to CNN.com, you'll see promoted a new investigation in which they do a lot of reporting on the Metro surge here.
Right.
And you got to have a subscription, apparently, to actually get it. I've got some bare bones aspects of it in front of me, but the actual story, which I wanted us to discuss today with Kessler, do you think he has a subscription?
I bet he doesn't.
Yeah, I bet you he doesn't.
I bet he doesn't.
I
do
didn't
not
even know
either.
it existed.
Me neither.
On CNN.
This will surprise all our audience, but our listeners, some of our favorites, I do not have a subscription to them.
Well,
I have 2 to the Athletics still.
We'll figure it out. Maybe we'll be able to pirate it because it has apparently some pretty juicy stuff that might be right up Kessler's alley. He is scheduled for 5:30. Heather Rule is going to join us at 3:30 this afternoon for reasons we will get into a little bit later in the broadcast. Remind me at some point, I do want to explore your favorite football team on the college level, the Golden Gophers. They had their internal media day today, as opposed to the Big Ten version of their media day, which you'll be attending next week, I think you said. I think PA broadcast from it live.
He did.
Correct? So I want to get into I have a few questions for you on I guess you could say, prospects for the 2026 Golden Gophers. And your head coach, P.J. Fleck, who is not, as I understand it, the latest University of Minnesota coach to get a contract extension.
That's right.
One of the few times you could say that. Right now, it's Nico, right?
Nico got one, yeah.
Got an extension. Do we know how many years?
I think it was just 1.
1 year?
I think they just added. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure it was just 1.
All right, so we'll try to mix that in. I've got some A-section stuff. It's not A-section in terms of necessarily being particularly political, but I think pretty interesting nevertheless. Once I get the hip cricket password or code, I will be able to reboot the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line as well. Trying to think, who is the first Vikings, when I use the term, and it's a pejorative one in football, there's no question at the quarterback position. When I use the term Checkdown Charlie, who is the first Vikings quarterback, not the only, but the first Vikings quarterback, if we're talking sequentially, in your lifetime as a big-time Vikings fan, who comes to mind?
A lot of things that are easily correctable.
Well done.
That's Christian Ponder for the kids.
Christian Ponder, I think, has got to be there. He got there first. He's not the only one. And I'm probably forgetting
some
quarterbacks from way back in the day. I mean, I was always an NFC Central guy, so I watched, even though I was based in Chicago area, I watched a lot of, or certainly was aware of a lot of Viking stuff because the Bears played them twice a year, right? So I'm guessing if we go back hard enough in history, we could find some other Checkdown Charlies, perhaps not as recent. But Christian Ponder is the first one that comes to mind. do we need to define, do most people know what a checkdown Charlie quarterback, what that connotes?
Well, I think they might, but it's always good for a refresh.
The basic premise is these are the quarterbacks who either via lack of confidence, lack of an arm, or just being frightened too much, as soon as they get any pressure, they go, I'm not going to hang in here and possibly get crushed. I'll just throw the 3-yard pass. That's in it's on the sheet that says, well, if this doesn't work, if this isn't there for you, check down to throwing to the back or a short pass perhaps to the tight end. And it can become maddening because generally it's assumed that you went to the check down too soon. And if you go to check downs too often, is your offense, at least your passing offense, ever going to frighten the other team? Is it ever really going to take hold as a force in the National Football League? Now, there was also a time, I think it's fair to say, that was an image that your guy, Kirk O'Chains, suffered from as well, correct?
Definitely.
He had periods where there seemed to be some... let me back up a little bit. The best contrast for you is obviously number 4, Brett Favre, who throughout his career, for better or for worse sometimes, was viewed as the anti-checkdown Charlie. He's the guy, he's going to sling it.
The gunslinger.
It might get picked off. It also might go for 30. But I ain't checking down. Rarely am I going to check down. Although, I think he actually showed decent discipline.
Definitely.
His first year here when the team was very good and went as far as it did.
Adrian had 50 catches that year.
That's right.
He wasn't running
example of it.
Randy Moss routes.
I think that's really the only year Adrian Peterson looked like a versatile, almost Chuck Foreman-like running back capable of catching the ball. So, Ponder first, Kirko. I don't really think, did we use, as the kid struggled, as 9 struggled last year, did we use that term? Did we associate him with that term, checkdown Charlie?
I don't think it ever came up. I could be forgetting. But we were just happy when any pass was completed. I don't think we were that specific.
Yeah, that's true.
We were not going to be that negative after a while.
Well, to a certain extent, you could argue that one of the mantras from the head coach, unlike his own philosophy, was in celebrating the power of completions, which is a prettier way to say, don't be afraid to check it down. At least it will not be an incompletion, right? Well, the question is whether we're on the verge of anointing to the starting quarterback spot, Minnesota Vikings, another checkdown Charlie. That's the accusation that has been uttered up, not by Tim Collishaw, Dallas Morning News, who has made it clear during visits with our show that he thinks the Vikings have made one of the biggest mistakes they ever could in thinking they're going to get greatness out of Kyler Murray. But it's actually a former wide receiver. Do you remember the name Steve Smith?
I do.
Longtime NFL wide receiver. This is a piece via bringmethesports.com. Will, is it pronounced Ragatz or Ragatz? I never know.
Me neither.
Ragatz. I want to give him proper authority or proper credit. But he quotes Steve Smith. I'm guessing this is in a podcast. Something called his 89 YouTube show. Was 89 his number?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was the guy that rode the boat on us, right?
That's right.
The Carolina Panthers receiver.
That's a good recall.
Right after the Love Boat.
Kyler Murray does a really good job of getting the football out of his hands. He's very accurate, 9 and less. His numbers when throwing the football 9 yards or less are off the charts. I call it checkdown Charlie. Now there he doesn't seem to be making it pejorative, but he gets there eventually. If you go back and look at the things that he does, when I'm talking about throwing over the middle, don't give me a little check down. Over the middle is 10 plus, 10 to 19. And when you don't have an explosive play that teams worry about and concern themselves about, you create a little bit of claustrophobia for yourself. And then all of a sudden you start trying to grab straws and pick anybody and anywhere to get you out of this box that is closing in on you that you don't want to be inside. More from the wide receiver. Kyler Murray, historically, short throws over the middle, completes 85%, highly efficient, processes, thinks fast, all that stuff. But this offense that they're running, the Vikings, a lot of the stuff that they do, how they make their hay is wide open throws in the intermediate area of the field, 10 plus. And my man is like, yeah, nah, we ain't doing that. Check down. Pretty frontal. The middle of the field is a blind spot. 10 to 19 yards for Kyler, I should say, is a blind spot. So the reporter here then attempts to do some fact-checking, so to speak, on what the numbers indicate. And the conclusion he has is that it's not maybe quite as black and white as that. But if you look at some of the numbers in the chart that accompanies this piece via bringmethesports.com, here's the middle category. And by the way, some of this has already been explored. Not necessarily in the form of Checkdown Charlie, but just more of a weakness over the middle. And that has historically been where KOC likes to make his money, right? There's no question about that. So does that mean he challenges Kyler? Does that mean he adjusts the offense a little bit? I don't know. Average depth of target. Let's go year to year, starting with 2019.
A-dot for those in the biz.
Is it the A-dot? Is that what we call it?
Yep.
Here's A-dot. Average depth of target. Out of 29th out of 35, 18th out of 36, 14th out of 35, 30th out of 35. This goes year to year. Now we're up to 2023, 31st out of 39, 2024, 31st out of 40, 2025, 40th.
Jeez.
Out of 40. Now, he points out his better years, his numbers were a little bit more middle of the pack.
Yep.
In that regard. But I got to tell you, man, you know me, I've tried to say to KOC, you can't always have to worry about a home run. So I'm not somebody who says you always have to throw 32 yards downfield. But I think it is a little worrisome. And I do have enough Checkdown Charlie baggage, I think, from previous Checkdown Charlies to say that concerns me a little bit more when it's put in that context and you hear it from a wide receiver. Now, again, there's a million opinions out there, and there's some very positive about what they think Kyler Murray is going to do. Chris Carter is on the Kyler Murray bandwagon, 100%, and is pretty honest usually. I think, but I will tell you, and I haven't texted this to Chris, I worry that in his case, that has more to do with his dislike for J.J. McCarthy and relief.
Could be.
That it's not going to be him starting than it is necessarily that he loves Kyler. It just may be I'm grading on, compared to him, I'll take Kyler Murray every time. So are you ready for another Checkdown Charlie regime? Because I don't think any of us would feel very good about that unless we're about to unleash the greatest running game in Vikings history.
Well, I also want to know, I'm curious about the middle of the pack years because 14 and 13, I think you said, or somewhere along, that's not terrible when you factor in there's a bunch of guys.
Those were his best years.
Yeah.
But why can't you sustain it?
Well, that might have something to do with who's around you,
Could
too.
be. Possible.
Because a lot of the checkdowns, as you mentioned, are, I feel like I'm about to get killed. My guys aren't getting open. I'm just going to unload it right here so I don't take a sack. That's part of it as well, which isn't necessarily good.
Right.
But I think some of that might have to do with who's around at different times. So I'd wanted a little bit of a deeper dive on that. At least we know it's in him to get to middle of the pack. I thought it was going to be 7 straight years of 35 and below.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, his 2 best years, it was better, but on balance, if you're going to do the large picture of, okay, what is the picture overall, it's very Checkdown Charlie-ish is what it is. Now, again, I guess, if you avoid sacks, you'll always take the check down over a sack, right? I mean, always. So it's not like the check down should be illegal, but it can't be your calling card. And if it is your calling card, and apparently it has been his calling card, that may be part of the reason he was available to us in the first place.
Fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with our national cash contest. First keyword of the afternoon is fun. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword fun.
Bumper to Bumper with Dan Barreiro.
You can just tell when he's, walking the halls in our building, just the energy and
Checkdown Charlie, Kyler Murray, 5'4", Wolves in 5. TJ Hawkinson, in contract years, extremely excited for Checkdown Charlie at the helm.
That's funny.
That is pretty good. That's very, very good, actually. Tom Brady was known, and it shows statistically that he checked down more than any quarterback when he was playing. He wasn't afraid to, but if you watch Tom Brady play, he could sling it. He could get the ball in tight windows, on time, and I would argue some of his a short pass isn't necessarily a check down either. That's the other thing we've got to be careful of. It depends on the situation, that's for sure. Well, we were all wondering how Nafisa Collier would fit back in to the greatest offensive machine in the WNBA. The answer is pretty damn good. It's an afternoon game going on right now in Seattle. Looks like late third. Minnesota is about to go up 7, maybe 8. Another free throw coming. And I'm looking at the box score. Collier, first time this season, back in the lineup, allegedly on a minutes restriction. I have her for, so far, 15 minutes, 17 points.
Yep.
7. She's not been shy about slinging it. 15 shots in 15 minutes, 7 for 15 from the floor, 2 for 5 from 3, 1 for 1 from the free throw line, 6 boards, 1 assist. She is a +6. I'm looking at the Olivia Miles. I would have just assumed she'd have 10 assists by now. She got 5. And she has, by the way, 11 points. And your gal, Kayla McBride, continues to just dominate. 18 points in 28 minutes. Are we guarding again, or is it a problem where we're just trying to outscore?
I mean, I'm watching them. I think they're trying to guard. Like, the effort seems to be there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Seattle's not very good. They're 6-22.
Right.
So I don't know if we're holding them below their average, not.
Not crazy about that court aesthetic myself, but that's just
It's a little messy.
Yeah,
it's a little messy in the lane.
And you don't mean Lionel Messi either.
I don't.
No.
Lynx will be up 8 going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, so in any case, I knew today was a day, but you had to remind me. I didn't realize it was a day game. So I got, again, notification from the basketball ambassador, Giovanzi. She texted me, I don't know, about 3 hours ago. Did you hear about Nafisa?
Mm-hmm.
I said, tonight's, and I was thinking it's going to be tonight.
Yeah.
Well, it's today. One of those.
You better text her back
events.
and let her know to get Victory Plus on right now.
Yeah, that's true. So
I liked how they did it. Did you see how they did it last night? First of all, I'm bitter. It was at like 6:41, which doesn't help us at all.
That's when they revealed that she not only I think they listed her as probable, correct?
Yes. But the social media team, not to be confused with the Miami Heat social media team that apparently tweeted out a YouTube link for the LeBron press conference, they had like a shot of someone's feet in the Nafisa new shoes, the Jordan brand, basically like she's back or something, and then someone picking up a crown, because she's Queen Fee, picking up a crown on the court, getting ready to put it on their head. It was good video. Very dramatic.
That's the game now, right? We've learned this over and over again.
As Flip said, got to get clicks.
Clicks and about presentation.
Engagement.
Do websites still do that old trick that if they have, here's our list of the top 10 quarterbacks of all time, that to get to each one, you have to keep clicking?
Yeah.
And do advertisers really, they
must.
Are they in on that subterfuge? Because that's what that is, a subterfuge.
Yes.
It's like, if you go through all 10, that's 10 clicks, when in fact it's really 1 click, right? Now, again, maybe with each click, there's another advertisement next to the name of the quarterback, and maybe that's the comeback on the part of the
That
clickable.
would be the comeback, yeah.
I'm not exactly sure.
To answer your question, I don't know if they still do that, because I stopped clicking on those lists a long time ago.
Yeah.
That made you do that.
I did too. I gave up on it.
Yeah.
I did.
I get it. I'm curious.
Yeah,
We're always looking for conversation
but I'm not curious
starters.
Enough.
No.
Especially because then there's usually, when you click that, there's like 3 ads that come up first.
Yes.
And then you got to X out of 3 things. And then they want to know if you want 10% off.
Right.
If you want to subscribe, and then they give you a second chance to do it at 20% off, and it's like, no, it's not.
And just visiting, you unlocked a Hilton Garden Vacations, Grand Vacations offer if you want to click on that, too.
Yeah, that's all very true. Check out Tom Brady time possession also. Might want to hold on to that one. Yeah, that's Brady's if you think Brady represents what Checkdown Charlie means, you got to watch more Tom Brady football, or you're forgetting conveniently what you want to forget. But I will say, we've talked about this how many times over the years. I continue to believe Tom Brady's underrated as a quarterback because a lot of his throws were shorter. I would submit they kept getting the team down the field, first downs, and he'd lull you into sleep, and then it'd be a 22-yard dart over the middle. And then there might be another pass for 12 for a touchdown. But I think because it wasn't big-armed all the time with him, people came away with, he's good. Yeah, he's good. But come on. You're going back to the comeback against Atlanta.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I remember that day so well. The number of people who basically said, what did he really do? Well, all he did was make every completion he needed to make such a historic comeback possible.
Over and over.
Yeah, it doesn't matter whether it's 38 yards downfield. So, bad Checkdown Charlie idea if that is your idea of that particular description for a quarterback. Bottom of the hour pause here. We're going to catch up with Heather Rule, who has written really, it's been a number of years now, right? A lot of high school stuff, a lot of hockey stuff, but also other sports as well. And there's a sad story that we have not really spent all that much time on that I definitely want to get to, that she wrote very nicely on, and we're going to give her a chance to talk about that and basically salute an individual gone way, way, way too soon from the newspaper business. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Barreiro on The Fan.
For more information about...
And now, it's time for Ode to a Dead Guy.
Very sad news breaking, I believe Saturday, certainly was over the weekend, that a reporter, writer who's covered prep sports for a long time, but certainly the bulk, I think, of his career was covering prep sports at the Star-Tribune, had died at the age of 50 years old. A horrific story. Our next guest, more than talking about just the tragedy of it, which is self-evident, I think in her most recent column via her Substack, is attempting to sort of salute him, why this person had been so important to our next guest in areas that go well beyond his ability to cover the prep beat. Heather Rule is kind enough to join us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline, her own bylines, NHL.com, The Wild, Star-Tribune, USA Hockey, and as I mentioned, Substack, writtenruleofsports.substack.com. Heather, thank you for joining the program. I wish it were under better circumstances.
Yeah, thanks so much, Dan. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit more about this.
So will you help the audience understand what you know about I believe it's considered a degenerative condition that David dealt with and then ultimately that he succumbed to. What is it? What do we know about it? What do you know about it?
Yeah, I believe it's leukodystrophy, I believe, and I honestly haven't done a ton of research into it. I know it affected motor skills and speech, and he was in a wheelchair. So just really, there were some comparisons people were making to like an ALS type of thing. I don't know, but how comparable they are, but it's similar. Where just your mind is maybe still there, but yeah, it's the motor skills and the ability to walk and all of those things. And even at the state tournaments a year ago, at the hockey state tournament, he wasn't, that was before he was diagnosed, he wasn't quite himself. There was kind of something going on, and he had thought maybe it was something else, but you could tell even just the way he was talking, there was something kind of not quite right. And it just, I don't know the the time frames on it.
Right.
But to me, it seemed very, very quick because it's a little over a year later, not even a year and a half later, and
insidious.
He's gone now. So yeah, very, very sad.
You wrote that he covered his last Boys State High School tournament in March 2025, shortly before the diagnosis, and it is considered a genetic, I think, neurodegenerative condition, as you write in this piece as well, and that he was at this tournament this past March, but obviously then as a fan in a very different sort of situation. What was it about your time with him that so moved you? Because obviously you guys had developed a really important bond. Give us a little sense for the maybe people who don't know all that much about David. What moved you to write the piece, the excellent piece you did, and what was it about, your connection with him that meant so much to you?
I think for me, it was just kind of going back to the beginnings of my own career and how helpful he was. How, in this business, it's such, everyone says, oh, it's such a tough business. It's hard to get into. And for me, he was one of those people that always was willing to help, whether it was a contact or, helping me out with, covering prep sports. I hadn't done too much of it, and I was down in Albert Lea for just a brief time covering prep sports. And, we had been in touch, and he, we talked on the phone, and he gave me some advice. He was he was one that told me, yeah, everyone kind of has their own contacts and this, just little things like that. So he was always willing to help. I know it wasn't just me. Nick Kelly is another young journalist who was also, I think, very similar situation, very close with him, just a mentor kind of relationship. So I know there's plenty of other people he's helped too. And I kind of look back at when I started freelancing. I always say I never set out to do it. I just kind of fell into it, and it really sort of started with one football game. I moved back to town and posted something on social media that I was back, and he reached out and said, hey, we're looking for someone to cover a football game, for the Star Tribune. And that was kind of the start of things. That's how I look back on it. And there were just other things along the way. I feel like he, went to bat for me, probably, I'm sure, for covering state tournaments. And, we covered the girls' state hockey tournament together. I would say kind of tag team that together for a few years. And he and Lauren Nelson covered the boys' state tournament for a few years until Lauren went out, and he has Legacy Hockey now on his own site. And, I have to think David, probably had a role in, who his next partner would be to cover the tournaments. And so I think just knowing how much he helped me and other people and was so willing to do that, whether it was a contact, like, oh, do you need the coach's number? I have, so-and-so's number. Just always willing to help and do really good work too, because it's hard work in a lot of ways, covering prep sports, being on the prep side versus pro sports or other sports. And
you know what?
I know he took a lot of pride in that.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's where I was going to go next. It's the great irony of this business, right? And because like many, I began in Louisville covering high school football games in southern Indiana, man, in the cornfields. And there ain't nobody helping you. There's no quotes that are being, mimeographed or sent to you, whatever. You got to go find the coach the whole bit. I never worked harder than I did then. It's the great irony of it, and it's why I've always had so much admiration for individuals who make it sort of their area, right? Because there's great stories, as he's proven. John Millay, so many others have proven to be had you in at the high school level, because I think it's universal, right? Not everybody really can relate to college stuff or certainly pro stuff, but they can relate to high school. Yeah,
that's such a great point too, that I think not a lot of people realize just how, like you said, there's nobody helping you, Right. State tournaments, it's been a little different the past few years.
Sure.
They do have, the press conferences and things like that, but you go cover a game regular season, you got to go find the coach, you're kind of on, maybe the football field looking around for players to talk to. You don't have a PR person directing you. You're keeping your own stats and all that kind of stuff, keeping your own, contact sheets and just everything. And I think, there's, for him, that's what he was, prep sports. That was what he did. And especially just finding that love for hockey too, and that passion that he had covering not only the state tournaments and obviously covering all of high school sports, which that's the challenge in itself for me too, is you have sports that you like a little more, or maybe a little bit more, but you have to know everything, or at least kind of get familiar with all kinds of different sports. And so for him too, with the hockey, and then the book that he co-authored with Lauren too, the Tourney Time, was just, I thought, a really, really amazing piece that they did. Were able to just encapsulate every single year and stories every single year from the boys' state hockey tournament.
Excellent history there as well. And you remind us too, again, at its best, covering high school sports doesn't, like with any other area really, does not have to just be about the bats and balls and the pucks and the games. It can be about the people behind it. And you remind us that at the girls' state tournament in 2019, David had set up an interview with the War Road coach, David Marvin. And as you write, the topic wasn't about the state tournament. Instead, LaVaque was going to talk to him about Coach Marvin's son, Max, who was 19 years old when he died by suicide at the family's home in late 2018. That's an example of I think, what the way these stories can resonate to people on a very human level. And it's a tough subject to explore, but he did it.
Yeah, I remember he was just, he was feeling very, I don't know if nervous is necessarily the right word. I mean, I think he was just, because it's a tough subject. And, I think he was just wanting to do a good job with it and wanting to give David Marvin and his family and just his son, just the respect that it deserved, and to be sensitive. And, I think that was, to me, that's not something you're necessarily going to hear maybe from every reporter. You can kind of get dialed in and be like, okay, I need to go do this story, and but I think the respect that I heard from him, and how he just really wanted to do a good job. And I know my Paul Cloud, who is our preps editor at the Star Tribune, works with David, and I worked with him as well. And he's shared a lot on his Instagram, visiting David over the past year or so. And one of the things he's brought up is the Jack Jablonski stories and that coverage after his injury happened, and just kind of how that was another side where it's just David, did such a good job with that coverage, which wasn't, like you said, kind of the X's and O's of the sport. It kind of goes beyond that. It goes into more of the human element, more of there's newsy elements that aren't just talking about games. So I think he did just a great job with those stories as well.
You're right. It's also the little things I remember that make me smile. We made sure to grab cookies for each other once they were out in the press box before the plate was empty. And at some point during the tournament, he'd lean over and ask, hot chocolate, before heading to the concession stand. And what struck me about that, too, again, is reporters who make it their living to cover high school sports. We talked about the challenges, because it is harder in so many ways, because stuff isn't spoon-fed to you. Maybe by the time you get to the state tournament, that's gotten a lot more organized than it once was. But day to day, not so much. I think the fraternity is if you're in that group, that's what I'm going to be, largely, right? That's what I'm going to do. Maybe for years, maybe for the rest of my career. Not necessarily, I got to try to get to a college thing next, or a pro thing, whatever. There is a fraternity there where I think that's the kind of bonding that is even more likely to go on, because there's that shared feeling of, okay, if people only knew, we're actually doing the hard work here, but we're all doing it, and so we all can kind of share it that way.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And even when I was maybe, in the press box there covering the state tournament for another outlet that I was working for, not, working directly with David at the Star Tribune at the time. And we all, there's a camaraderie up there between a lot of us that are there for, those 4 days, or, just the entire tournament. And there's a lot of time where you're, downstairs waiting for the teams to come in, and different things that you talk about. And I was going through some of our old text messages the other day, and there's kind of a concerning number of them about cookies in the press box.
Right.
But it made me laugh as well because, you wanted to make sure you got those before they were gone. And then, the hot chocolate thing, he was a hot chocolate guy, not a coffee guy. And so that kind of became our thing a little bit. And like I said to him, I'm pretty sure I owe him a few more hot chocolates than he owed me. But I think it was, again, just another very small example of just his generosity in that way too.
Well,
he didn't have to. He could just go get a cup of hot chocolate for himself.
Sure.
He didn't have to, ask if I wanted one.
Glenn, if Glenn Mason were listening to this conversation, he would say, well, yeah, you had to get to the cookies because the Justin guards of the state high school tournament otherwise would take them all. So there's always somebody who's trying to grab more than their fair share. That's an old joke for Guardsy that he's nodding his head. You've accepted that role, right, Guardsy? Pretty much from Mace.
Yeah, Lunchbox. That's my nickname for Mace.
Lunchbox is a nickname.
For sure.
That's very, very
guilty.
This stuff is not easy to talk about, but I think you did a great job bringing him to life for people who maybe didn't know, and talking about more than just what he reported on and wrote, which is very valuable. And so there's a part of me that doesn't even want to go down the other road I want to go down, but in a way I kind of do, because you obviously knew Jesse Pierce very well. The hockey community, to a certain extent, is still mourning that loss. For you, I mean, how hard is it to process two individuals like this that you knew well, too young? I mean, ridiculously young. How hard a period has this been for you to just sort of, on your side of it, deal with these sorts of tragedies that you are close to?
It's been very, very difficult, as anyone can imagine. The state tournament this year is kind of going to be one of those that's seared in my brain for a lot of different reasons. The boys tournament, obviously, game-wise, you had these two awesome championship games, and it was a great tournament. I saw David there, which, was one of the last times I saw him in a different way. So that was already tough at the time because he wasn't there. There was already that void felt. And as it turned out, that was the last time I saw Jessie Pierce as well. She had took her boys out of school for semifinal Friday to watch Matamida, of course, and she had her leather jacket on, and that was the last time I saw her too. So it's been extremely difficult these past 4 months now, and to just still feel like, okay, I'm mourning my one friend, and to now have two kind of just right on top of each other like this. It's been really hard because it's hard to make sense out of the losses. And it was when I was writing the other day too, because I knew I wanted to write something, and it was just kind of weird as I was saying to myself, well, I can't believe I'm writing another one of these so soon. It's not something that I wanted to be doing, obviously, but at the same time, as I had done with Jessie's piece and I heard about her, it was my small way of just paying tribute to each of them and just sharing my connection with them and my stories and my relationship with them. So there's voids in that press box for sure. And it's, going forward, just about hopefully doing my best to honor both of them, and the work that I continue to do with my hockey writing is, I think, the best way to maybe try and look at it. But it's been hard because I obviously miss Jessie and her kids, and David too. I mean, just two people, like you said, gone too soon. Yeah,
very well said. Jessie's irreplaceable, as you know. You are going to be doing some of the work she did, correct, moving forward?
Yes, yeah, with NHL.com covering the Wild games, yep.
And are you going to continue to do? I mean, are you still mixing and matching, doing a little bit of everything, or is it now more? This is going to be the emphasis, the hockey stuff, and not so much high school.
I'm still feeling that out. I think it's still going to be a little bit of everything. Yeah. The NHL is, I'm a contractor there, so everything I do is kind of freelance contract. So, I think while the NHL kind of takes priority a little bit during their season and their games, but, I haven't shut the door on high school coverage yet either. So I'm sure I'll still be around. A
little of everything. I got a text here from Matt out of White Bear Lake. Hi, Dan. Dave was my best friend in my wedding and the godfather of my youngest daughter. He was at your paper for 20-plus years on KFAN, WCCO, et cetera, covering high school sports. The town lost a great ambassador for prep sports way too early at age 50. Thanks for taking time to remember him, to remembering Dave today. And that's what I laud you for, because there's no easy way to get past this, obviously. This is always going to be with you. But it is a way to honor them, and in this case to honor David, to humanize him for people maybe who don't, maybe they don't read as much high school sports, or maybe they didn't know that much about him. So I laud you for your attempt to keep these names active to that extent and give them their proper due, and I know they're always going to stay with you.
Thanks so much, Dan. Yeah, I appreciate that. That's as hard as that is, it's it's something I think moving forward is also very important to me, to try and continue that work and always be thinking about them, definitely.
Keep fighting the fight. Thank you for the time, Heather. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Heather Rule, we're chatting, if you're just joining us, about the news that broke Saturday that David LaVaque, longtime prep writer for the Star-Tribune, it was revealed on Saturday that he had passed away at the age of, I believe, 50 years old. Hard to believe, 50 years old, a degenerative condition that overtook him, again, like all these do, relatively quickly. And, Guardsy, for me, it falls, I think we've talked about this before, it falls under the category of, you learn about, as much as you think about the quote-unquote big diseases, that we all know so much about, unfortunately, for various reasons, sometimes from within our family, whatever, what do we learn over the years? That there are so many conditions and degenerative diseases that you grow up, I didn't even knew they existed, right? That are out there, and in some cases there's no answer, in some cases there are limited ways to treat, and often it feels like these sorts of conditions end up taking people at such a young age, right? Yeah. In his case, as I said, 50 years old. And I'm sure you had some interaction with him from time to time.
Yeah, I remember him from our Friday Night Lights scoreboard show with Tiny Joe.
Sure.
He would be at a game somewhere, and Joe would be here. He was there for one of the infamous moments where Ryan Donaldson forgot to turn his mic off and then was like yelling.
Oh, no.
Not yelling, but like talking very loudly to a coach to try to get him back on. And Joe's trying to talk to David. David, he had a very dry sense of humor, it sounds like. Right. I didn't know him very well. I popped in.
Because I was gone. I did not know him as well as previous prep writers for sure, but and even John Millay, but go ahead.
But me, high school sports were a big part of my life. Same with my sisters. Yeah. Obviously yours, same deal, right? With Coach Barreiro. Yeah. And so I love just people that do dedicate their life to it and take the time to do it and do it the right way. It's very meaningful to a lot of different people. And obviously he did that at the highest level that you could possibly do it for a really, really, really long time. And the fraternity thing is a real thing. You mentioned it. Every job has them, right? Like the people that you kind of travel with and do all these different things with. And when a couple of them are gone, you notice it, man. You really do notice it. And we've lost a couple here.
There's no doubt. Yeah. And, again, the people who obviously are hurting the most are family members around these two individuals. But, you could hear it in Heather's voice. If you develop these friendships and these working relationships to a certain degree that went beyond that. And I also think about it. Heather's young too. Just the idea that you're not supposed to have to think about mourning contemporaries of that age, right? It's
Correct.
Just not supposed to happen.
Right.
And yet we've had that, obviously, with the tragic fire and now the bad news here on David LaVaque. So we thank Heather again. you can, as I mentioned, she has a Substack. Let me see if I have the information again here real quick. If it's writtenruleofsports.substack.com, and it may have been her most recent piece. It's certainly the last one I read from her. Was her attempt to do justice to the relationship that she had established over the years with David. We will make this the top of the hour pause. As I mentioned, Kessler is scheduled to join us at 5:30 today. We got a number of other stories to get to between now and then. Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is open at 64686. Back maybe with a Lynx update very late as well when we return.
Bumper to Bumper with Dan Barreiro on the Fan.